It's a little room, and she forcibly placed me in the bed next to this famous naked man who, from what I can see, has been beating the living daylights out of this woman for the past 5 years. Brian Hickerson, Hayden's intermittent lover, has been arrested multiple times for domestic abuse against the actress. A stinging agony went down my spine as I felt my head snap back and crash into the wall. It wasn't until EMS officially pronounced her dead that Brian started to cry. Hayden Panettiere, a well-known actress, passed away just 2 days ago, on August 16th. However, police reports have been released continuously since the unexpected incident, and people are now shivering after hearing her final words, which exposed the reality of her predicament as a former abused child star under intense pressure from the industry. Because of her mother, Leslie R. Vogel, a former soap opera actor, Hayden was a beloved actress with a lengthy resume that began when she was just 11 months old. Eventually, she starred in popular films and television shows, including Scream, Bring It On, Ice Princess, Nashville, I Love You, and Beth Cooper. However, as she battled the pressure to do better and better, she lived a life apart from her contemporaries, behind her prosperous job. In her early years, she participated in more than 50 projects, and after middle school, she was forced to drop out of formal study. Her attention-seeking, estranged mother, who failed as a soap opera actress and was determined to live the high life through her daughter, was another factor contributing to the problem. In a recent interview, Panettiere's mother has revealed that Brian Hickerson, the person we've been attempting to get rid of for a while, was present when she passed away. The mother describes her daughter as having extraordinary talent, but she also says, "I think it's difficult for young people who grow up in the entertainment industry." She essentially served as her handler and pimped her out throughout the entirety of her childhood career. And even after her death, she has been making exclusive remarks left and right as if she can't wait to profit off her daughter's passing. Is speaking up for the first time, exclusively in a phone conversation with NBC News. Hayden tragically lost her way, and I wish things had turned out differently. She had so many amazing qualities that I wish she had stayed true to herself. According to Vogel, who was once Panettiere's manager, she hasn't spoken to her daughter since October. Panettiere discussed their tense relationship on the Jay Shetty podcast in May. I can't even recall a period of time when she wasn't a mother and things weren't all about business. Regarding Hayden's career and difficulties, Shetty said, "You should never have had to experience the things you did." Yesterday, praising Penny for her bravery, "I think Hayden was an amazingly talented person in so many departments. It's a struggle, and it's a very challenging industry, and it's not unusual for them to sadly find the wrong path." Despite being a big part of the reason Hayden allowed her boyfriend to abuse her for so long, she's done nothing but place the blame on anyone but herself. It's okay to feel the emotions that you're feeling. It can be a very sad and very traumatizing experience. The fact that Brian was with Hayden at the time of her death is unsurprising, but devastating nonetheless, she says in a statement to ET. "I was in such a lonely, desperate place that I was more afraid of being alone than I was with somebody who was, with somebody who was physically hurting me." Leslie further asserts that Brian made it possible for Hayden and that her family had been attempting to get rid of him for a long time. It is painful to watch young Hayden idolize her mother and try to understand her as someone in her corner, growing up to resent her for seeing her as just a cash cow. She never reached out to her daughter when it mattered, and Hayden acknowledges that she slammed the proverbial door in her face when it came to reconnecting. You talk about supporting the family financially and emotionally at such a young age. And it just got worse. She's right there. Pardon me, Mom. Mom, we're having an interview. Yes, thank you. My mother was with Hayden and her mother when she was a child star. What do you think makes a good mother? Oh my God. I think my mom describes a good mom. I think, someone who understands, who knows that, what you're going through, and I know what the moms have to go through, and I know that how much they have on their plates. They split professionally when she was 19, and they stopped talking completely about a year before her death. She has very clearly prioritized herself, which I should not be shocked by. When people ask me about the relationship, if there's any hope for future, I always say that I always leave that door open, cracked open, and you pray for it, and you hope it eventually comes. But she slammed that door pretty hard in my face. Her mother completely refused to protect her, and Hayden spent a lot of her early career struggling, and many think her death has to do with the fact that she exposed how she had been groomed and exploited as a child actress. Because I don't find it coincidental at all that Hayden Panettiere lost her life directly after exposing Hollywood. And it's very unfortunate to see, and it's even sadder that no one even knows the cause. It's very small room, and she physically put me in the bed next to this undressed man who was very famous and had his hands like this. The person responsible for the incident has been revealed to be Diana Jenkins, though she is currently denying everything. In this book, she talks about a woman named Stella, who was set up to be a yacht girl by her friend. You may have heard of yachting before. The off-girls go to France, are on these yachts, and are paid a lot of money to sleep with powerful men. Well, Hayden fell into that because she trusted this woman, Stella. Hayden talks about this story when she was 18, was set up to sleep with a man who was 30 years old, extremely wealthy, well-known, and powerful. Hayden described the incredibly terrifying incident on the Jay Shetty podcast. The story describes a single incident that traumatized her and caused her to become an addict for a large portion of her adult life. It was led by someone I had come to trust and saw as a protector and someone who had my back, and it was presented as though it was a surprise. It was in a very small room, and she physically placed me in the bed next to this famous man who was undressed and had hands like this was just an ordinary day for him. This is something that happens frequently. I waited for her to leave, and I was like, this is not happening. But I had nowhere to hide, led by somebody that I had grown to trust and see as a protector, and somebody who had my back, and to be walked down, down the stairs. And it was as like a surprise presented, as though it was like a surprise. And it was this very small room, and she physically put me in the bed next to this undressed man who was very famous and had his hands like this, like this was just, an average day for him. And this is something that happens all the time, and I waited for her to leave, and I mean that lion in me, that fire in me, that my hair stood on end, and I became ferocious. I was like, this is not happening, but I had nowhere to hide. What's interesting, too, is that it seems like Stella, whoever this woman may be, kind of groomed Hayden. Hayden said in her book, I wasn't scared, but I felt like I'd been kicked in the face. This friend had confided in me. After treating me like her best friend and pampering me, she treated me like a call girl. I really deserved better than that. Hayden's abusive boyfriend, Brian Hickerson. who had been a constant in her life since they first started dating in 2018, is another factor that significantly contributed to her death. Many even believe that, rather than the industry punishing her, he may have been responsible for her premature death. Was it just pill bottles found nearby? Or did someone tell them? Where was Brian when the EMTs arrived? What was his condition? Was he taken to the hospital? As far as I can tell, he has been beating the living daylights out of this woman for the past 5 years, showing absolutely no concern for her well-being. So what role, if any, did he play? It's a fair question. Hayden Panettiere had abused herself for the previous 10 years of her life, so it's very possible that the answer is no role other than sidekick. However, there is still more to look into regarding this boyfriend. As we learn more about what transpired inside, the Greenville, South Carolina police report states that Hayden's on-again, off-again boyfriend, Brian Hickerson, who has been arrested multiple times for domestic violence against the actress, and his brother Zach were both at the apartment at the time of the 36-year-old's death. One of them called 911, saying, "I have a cardiac arrest, overdose. CPR is in progress." Hickerson showed the arriving officer a bag of medication. The actress has been op. Hayden's death occurred a few days after a judge in Los Angeles County rejected Hickerson's attempts to have his prior felony domestic violence charges against her dismissed or reduced. Hayden herself acknowledged that he had repeatedly touched her in her memoir, "This is Me, A Reckoning." People have been furious, suspecting foul play, especially since she was discovered dead in his apartment, despite the fact that they shouldn't have been together. This was made worse by the fact that they had dinner and drinks, and halfway through our first course, we were chatting and laughing about everything from our dreams and aspirations to the movie we wanted to watch that evening. After dinner,